Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Boxes of Comics. My name's Chase Higgins, and today we're going over the history of Detective Comics. So, Detective Comics helps spark the imagination of people and the creation of heroes that we know and love today, such as Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. And so I figured that I'd talk about a little bit of their history and where DC started and where they are today. And if you think this is going to be a good idea, make sure you like and subscribe, and we will begin right after this. So, let's begin. The company of DC was originally called National Allied Publications, or NAP. This has a rich history that dates back to the earliest 20th century, about 1900s to 1930s is when it began. The company has been responsible for creating some of the most iconic superheroes, such as Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, and The Flash. And while the company would eventually become Detective Comics in 1934, Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson founded NAP, or National Allied Publications. They released the first comic book featuring entirely original material, that was titled New Fun, the Big Comic Magazine. In 1938, NAP published Action Comics #1, which introduced Superman. This was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. This marked the first appearance of a superhero and had become a significant milestone in comic book history, as it had never been done before. Then, in 1939, Batman was introduced in Detective Comics #27 by Bob Kang and Bill Finger. The 1940s were a golden age for DC Comics, with the company publishing various superhero titles that became immensely popular. In addition to Superman and Batman, DC created characters like Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, and other members of the Justice League during this time period. In the 1940s, this is what we would call the golden age of comic books, as superheroes were gaining immense popularity, and DC Comics, then known as National Comics Publications, were the forefront, publishing various superhero titles such as the JLA, Green Lantern, and The Flash. Then we move on to the Silver Age, and with the Silver Age, that took place in the 1950s and the 1960s, which saw a decline in the popularity of superheroes for comic books, as they were seen as too juvenile and outdated. However, DC Comics preserved, and in the 1960s they introduced the Justice League of America, bringing together their most popular superheroes into one team. This helped to revitalize the superhero genre. And then in the 1970s, DC continued to release groundbreaking storylines, such as the socially relevant Green Lantern and Green Arrow tie-up series by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. After that came the 1980s. And the 1980s, it helped with the iconic events such as Crisis on Infinity Earth that helped reshape DC's multiverse and the DC universe in general. It helped streamline and simplify the complex continuity that had become DC Comics. In the late 1980s and 1990s, characters like Batman and Superman were reimagined into a darker, more complex tone. Examples of this can be Frank Miller's The Dark Knight run and Alan Moore's Watchmen. DC Comics continued to evolve its characters and storylines in the early 2000s and the present by introducing new generations of heroes and exploring diverse storylines that help reach various imprints and characters. With all of this going down with DC, then the DC universe and expansion started to begin. Over the years, DC has expanded its universe, introducing multiple Earths and alternate realities. This allowed for diverse storytelling and character development, as no two characters were the same. DC's universe became interconnected through crossovers, team-ups, and major events that affected multiple titles throughout its entire company. With multimedia expansion on the horizon, DC's characters have adapted into various forms of media, including TV shows, movies, comic books, video games, and pop culture in general. Iconic adaptations include the Superman film starring Christopher Reeves, the Batman franchise that starred Michael Keaton. Then it went to Val Kilmer, then George Clooney. Then it got rebooted as a whole into the Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. And then Ben Affleck played the title character for Zack Snyder. And now it's on to Robert Pattinson in the Matt Reeves filmverse. Along with the movies, there was also Batman the Animated Series. You had Justice League Unlimited and recent successful movies that were included in the DCEU. Whether you think those are popular or successful may vary because it is being rebooted by this time at James Gunn's by James Gunn having like full control, I think. So going from there, we move into recent developments throughout the 21st century. So DC Comics has continued to expand its storytelling, embracing diverse characters and exploring various genres beyond traditional superhero narratives. DC has also launched various imprints focusing on specific audiences, such as DC's Black Label for mature readers, and DC Ink and DC Zoom for young adult to middle grade audiences. Throughout its history, DC Comics has a profound impact on pop culture and the world that we know. It helps by shaping the way superheroes are perceived and influence storytelling for years to come. All in all, DC is a major force in the comic book industry and is a major milestone for anybody that wants to be interested in comic books. Its characters are some of the most iconic that the world has ever known, and the company has a rich history as its stories have been told in various forms of media for decades. DC Comics continues to evolve and grow as its characters will continue for certain fans for years to come. So, that's all we have for today. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Send this to your friends and family. And don't forget to check out our Instagram channel at Boxes of Comics. Thanks, and have a good day.